Navigating the UK's immigration system can be complex, and the rights and entitlements of people who come to the UK vary greatly depending on their immigration status. Here is an explanation of the main differences between the three groups you asked about. 1. People who apply for citizenship and are granted temporary citizenship before entering the country. This category, as you've described it, doesn't align with the UK's legal framework. The UK does not grant temporary citizenship before a person enters the country. Instead, people who wish to move to the UK legally typically apply for a visa or a form of leave to remain from outside the UK. This could be a work visa, a student visa, a family visa, or a visa under a specific humanitarian scheme, like the ones for people from Ukraine or Hong Kong. These visas grant them the right to enter and stay in the UK for a specific purpose and length of time. Documentation: they have a legal visa or digital status, e-visa, that proves their right to be in the UK. Benefits: their access to benefits often depends on the specific conditions of their visa. Many temporary visas come with the condition of no recourse to public funds, NRPF, which means they cannot claim most state benefits such as universal credit or housing benefit. The expectation is that they or their sponsor can support them financially. However, they are usually entitled to free healthcare through the NHS, provided they have paid the immigration health surcharge. 2. People who apply for refugee status when they arrive by legal means. This group refers to asylum seekers. An asylum seeker is a person who has arrived in the UK and formally applied for asylum because they fear persecution in their home country. While they may have arrived by legal means, such as by plane, the key is that they are seeking protection and have not yet been granted a long-term immigration status. Documentation: they have provided documents to prove their identity and have a pending application with the Home Office. Benefits: while their claim is being considered, asylum seekers are not entitled to claim mainstream benefits like universal credit. However, if they are destitute, meaning they have nowhere to live and no money, the government is legally obligated to provide them with support. This is known as asylum support and includes accommodation provided by the Home Office in a flat, house, hostel, or other temporary housing. They cannot choose where they live. Financial: the government is legally obligated to provide them with support. This is known as asylum support and includes accommodation provided by the Home Office in a flat, house, hostel, or other temporary housing. They cannot choose where they live. Financial support: a weekly cash allowance, currently around £49.18 per person, on a payment card to help pay for food, clothing, and toiletries. This is much less than a typical benefit payment. Healthcare: they are entitled to free NHS healthcare. If their asylum claim is successful, they are granted refugee status. At this point, they can work and are entitled to access the same benefits as a UK citizen, including universal credit, housing benefit, and other social welfare programs. 3. Illegal migrants who arrive in the country without documentation. This group is also known as undocumented migrants or unauthorized migrants. This refers to individuals who have either entered the country without permission, e.g. in the back of a lorry or on a small boat, overstayed a visa and no longer have legal permission to be in the UK, had their asylum claim rejected and all appeals exhausted but have not left the country. Documentation: They have no legal status or documentation that gives them the right to be in the UK. Benefits. They are not entitled to claim any state benefits and have no recourse to public funds. They also cannot legally work, rent private accommodation, open a bank account, or access most public services, including social housing and most secondary healthcare, hospital care. They can, however, access essential services such as primary healthcare, e.g. registering with a GP, and emergency hospital treatment, although they may be charged for non-emergency care. Children of undocumented migrants are legally entitled to attend school. In summary, the key differences are legal status. The first group has a temporary legal status, a visa. The second group has a pending legal application, asylum. The third group has no legal status. Benefits. The first group's benefits are typically limited by the no recourse to public funds rule. The second group receives a specific, very limited form of government support while their case is being decided. The third group is not entitled to any benefits at all. Long-term path. The first two groups have a clear, documented path to potentially gaining long-term residency and eventually citizenship. The third group has a very limited path to legal status, often only available after a long period of residency or in exceptional circumstances. Based on the information provided, it's important to clarify a key distinction. The people being housed in hotels and receiving support from the government are asylum seekers, not quote-unquote illegal migrants, in the way that term is sometimes used to describe those who have no legal status or application pending. Here's a breakdown of why this happens, drawing on the information you provided and the broader context of UK law and policy. The legal obligation to support asylum seekers. The primary reason for providing accommodation and a small allowance to this group is a legal one. Under the Immigration and Asylum Act 1999, the Home Secretary is legally required to provide support to all destitute asylum seekers while their claim is being decided. A person is considered quote-unquote destitute if they have no adequate accommodation or no means of obtaining it. This is a humanitarian provision to prevent people who have fled persecution from being left homeless and without any means of survival while the UK government processes their application. Why hotels are used. The use of hotels is a direct result of the asylum system being under immense pressure. It is not the government's preferred or long-term policy. The ideal approach is to house asylum seekers in more sustainable, purpose-built accommodation or dispersed housing. However, as the number of asylum applications has surged, the Home Office has struggled to find enough of this permanent accommodation. Increased arrivals. The number of people arriving in the UK to claim asylum, particularly via small boats across the Channel, has risen significantly in recent years. This has placed unprecedented pressure on the existing asylum accommodation network. Backlogs. A large backlog of unresolved asylum cases has meant that people are spending longer periods in the system, waiting for a decision. This further ties up available accommodation. Lack of alternatives. When there isn't enough capacity in initial accommodation centers or dispersal housing, the government is forced to use hotels as contingency accommodation to meet its legal obligations. The Home Office has stated that this is a temporary measure and successive governments have aimed to reduce their use. The support they receive is not benefits. It's also important to distinguish the support given to asylum seekers from mainstream benefits like universal credit. Limited financial support. Asylum seekers are not entitled to claim state benefits. Instead, they receive a very small weekly allowance, currently around £49.18 per person on a payment card. This is intended to cover essential needs like toiletries, travel, and non-prescription medicines. This amount is significantly less than what a typical benefit recipient would receive. If their accommodation provides meals, this allowance is even lower. No choice in accommodation. Office are given no choice about where they live. They are housed on a no-choice basis and are often moved to areas where there is available accommodation, which is often not in London or the Southeast due to high housing cost. The situation for undocumented migrants. As stated in the previous answer, individuals who are illegal migrants, undocumented or with rejected asylum claims and no pending appeals are not entitled to any state benefits, including accommodation or financial support. The UK has a compliant environment, previously known as the Hostile Environment Policy, which aims to make it difficult for these individuals to live in the UK by denying them access to work, bank accounts, and most public services. The only support they can access are essential services, such as emergency healthcare and primary schooling for their children, which is a separate legal and humanitarian obligation. In summary, the housing in hotels and a small allowance are provided to asylum seekers with pending legal claims, not to illegal migrants who have no legal status. This is done to fulfill the UK's legal and humanitarian duty to not leave people destitute while their application for protection is being considered. The use of hotels is a consequence of the current pressures on the asylum system and the lack of suitable long-term accommodation. Understanding immigration in the UK today is crucial for a well-informed citizenry. The national conversation is often dominated by complex issues and strong opinions, which can sometimes overshadow the facts. This introduction aims to provide a clear and straightforward overview of the different types of migrants in the UK based on the current legal frameworks and policies of 2025. By breaking down the key distinctions between different immigration statuses, from those with legal visas to asylum seekers and undocumented individuals, we can better understand the system's complexities. This information is intended to help demystify a topic that is central to public debate, fostering a more constructive and less divisive dialogue.